What's up YouTube? I'm Valentin the Mad, and this is the Gore review of Postal 2. When you think about gory, violent and sadistic games, Postal 2 is one of the first to come up. Setting characters on fire, urinating on them, and then beheading them with a shovel. It's absolutely sick and twisted, and that is why I love it. The game runs on Unreal Engine 1.5, which in gaming standards is considered antique today, and was pretty old even when Postal 2 first came out. But it still delivers a gorier experience than many of the newer games. The Postal 2 that I'm reviewing is the updated version on Steam with the improved gore from Apocalypse Weekend expansion. So how gory is it? Let's find out. I'll be reviewing every aspect of the game's gore effects, and the score will be set based on 4 categories: body damage, environment, animations and sounds, the feel. Postal 2 offers plenty of weapons for body annihilation. You got the sharp weapons for dismemberment, blunt weapons for head destruction, and some incendiary weapons that can burn people. Heads can be dismembered and destroyed, limbs have 3 points of amputation, the body can be cut in half, and can be annihilated. Now the first thing you will see is that dismemberment is very clean and looks like it's done with surgical precision. There is no blood splatter on the body at all. Even if you slice someone to the max, their body will be entirely clean. So even though you actually have more dismemberment variations than most games out there, it still doesn't feel very right when the bodies and all of the body parts are absolutely clean. There are several more problems with the dismemberment. First, the shotgun that you have from initial release can only destroy the head and does no visual damage to any of the limbs, while the newer son of shotgun is literally an annihilator of the body. Next, you have several explosive weapons that on first contact don't cause any visual body damage at all. They only dismember limbs on dead bodies. Body annihilation is not great. You have some pieces of meat that quickly disappear, and there is no extra blood in the environment. Also, non-dismembering bullet wounds are just non-existent in Postal 2. Guns that don't dismember limbs will cause no body damage at all, and there really is no reason to use them with all of the awesome melee weapons at your disposal. You do get a burned character model after you set people on fire. It looks really old and simple, but the functionality is there, which is something many games today don't have. The environment aspect is something where Postal 2 really shines. You have bloodstains after gunfire, blood pools, and the glorious blood fountain effect after beheading. As for gunfire, a shot wound will stain the surface behind the character. If there is nothing behind the character, it will just stain the ground. That is actually something where many games fail, and props to RWS for doing it right. Along with blood, there are several more bodily fluids in Postal 2, and those are urine and vomit. To make all of those look well, RWS made fluid physics for their game. Yes, that's right. A game that came out in 2003 has fluid dynamics that actually look pretty good, when the vast majority of games today don't have anything remotely close to that. Even Borderlands 2, with fluid effects powered by physics, does not look as good as Postal 2 in that aspect. Should be noted that those effects are activated only on the blood pools and the fountain after beheading. They don't apply to the other bloodstains you have in the game, which leads us to the biggest problem in those effects. You have plenty of dismemberment variations other than the head, but none of them causes the physics-affected blood fountain, and you only have a small blood stain that isn't doing any justice for that wound. There is a lot of potential here to make the environment effects really awesome. The RWS just missed out. As for mess in the longer term, you do have settings that determine how many bodies and blood stay, but they don't apply for guts, pieces of destroyed head, and pieces of meat after annihilation. Also, despite the max settings, some of the bloodstains disappear too. To give you an idea, here's a murder scene right after I was done, and here it is, literally 2 minutes later. To be completely fair, it's probably the fault of the engine that is basically museum material today, as I did notice several FPS drops with many bodies and a lot of mess on the screen. But nevertheless, it still damages the experience. The hit responses are very basic. Characters shrug on impacts and just turn ragdoll on death. And there is no state of wounded but fighting behavior in the game. Actually, characters can take a headshot and just run away after that happens and keep on with their day. Now, no matter how ridiculous a game is, nothing justifies surviving headshots with no response. There actually is an incapacitated state for characters in the game, but it has a fair share of flaws. It's caused by dismembering limbs or cutting characters in half and can't happen from gunfire. I noticed it happening consistently only to armed characters. Whether it happens or not to unarmed civilian characters varies for different weapons. I also noticed that when a character is in that incapacitated state, he can die. While it could potentially make sense in some cases, and in gunfire that would actually be a great move. But it does not look right in this scenario. Incapacitated state aside, how's the response for amputations? Not great. When you chop a civilian's arm off, they will run away panicking, and later will be walking around totally chill, minus an arm or two. On leg dismemberment, they just go in the downed state thing. I actually got a suggestion for this. Let's say you just amputate someone's arm. They would have some kind of holding the wounded area animation while screaming in pain as they are spraying the environment in blood with the mechanic you have for beheadings. Then, they drop on the ground and slowly bleed out. Something similar could be done for the legs too. What I'm talking about is characters acknowledging exactly what part of the body they just lost. There is so much room for creativity here that was just not used. The process of dying from an incendiary weapon is very brutal. Characters are running around screaming for some time, then drop on the ground and lie in agony until they die. Functionality-wise, those are probably the best incendiary kill animations I have seen in gaming. Unlike what we have in most games, the animations in Postal 2 are long and brutal, and most developers underestimate the importance of that. Sure, the animations look old, and the transitions show the game's age, but the functionality is there and it deserves all of the praise. Actually, other than the incendiary weapons, there is one more type of reactions that is done really well, and that is the reactions of NPCs to what's going on around you. Whether it's to seeing you kill people or seeing a mutilated body, NPC reactions are awesome, and they actually vary for different NPCs. Some will run away screaming in panic, some will start throwing up, some will actually start kicking the deceased, and there's many more of those. It's actually kind of amusing. The reactions of NPCs to damage are mostly unsatisfying, but the reactions of other NPCs in the area are awesome. That's actually true for the sound aspect too. The reactions of characters on the receiving end are not great, but the comments of your character and the characters around you are pretty neat. More on the sounds. There are no screams on death, and the screams of pain are mostly short and not satisfying. You will actually often see an animation, but hear no sounds. The incendiary deaths are an exception. They sound as brutal as they look. Weapon sounds are cool. Definitely not the best, but pretty damn satisfying. I want to point out the bat. It's awesome, both for the ridiculous ragdoll effect and for the sound.
I know what you're thinking, but the funny thing is, I don't even like video games.
The lack of any marks on the bodies and generally poor responses in the animations department are really ruining it. You have more variations of dismemberment than many games got today, and there are exceptional blood on the environment mechanics, but even those are not used the way they should. What I'm looking for is awesome response for every attack and each weapon in the game. That is unfortunately not the case in Postal 2. If you want the best experience, I'd say avoid the guns in this game and stick to melee and incendiary weapons. There is plenty of fun to be had with those. The score for body damage is 8 out of 30. The score for environment is 15 out of 30. The score for animations and sounds is 13 out of 30. I give the view a score of 5 out of 10. So this gives Postal 2's Gore system a total score of 41 out of 100. Postal 2 is definitely a fun game to fire up for a murderous spree every once in a while. In this paradise city, the grass ain't that green and the girls aren't that pretty, so everyone should pay for that. Should be noted that in order to unlock the weapons from Apocalypse Weekend that actually cause all of the dismemberment other than the head, you will need to play through the entire game again or download Ultimate Sandbox Mode. It's a really poor call in my opinion. I played through the game probably 6-7 times when I was younger, and now I just want to go Postal for some nostalgia and enjoy the fun melee. Also, why someone who is new to the game should not enjoy the fun weapons on the start? One thing I want to conclude with. RWS should make a new Postal game on one of the newer engines. Postal 3 does not count. Other than being a buggy mess, it lacks one of the most basic things that made Postal 2 awesome. The freedom to roam around and wreak havoc in the city. Also, the enemies feel like cheap knockoffs, even compared to the far from perfect ones in Game 2. The day RWS will announce a new Postal game with modern graphics and mechanics will be a happy day for virtual maniacs all around the world. I'm sure that the gore aspect of something like that would be a whole lot of fun to review. Hope you enjoyed watching the video. Let me know how you feel in the comment section, and if you liked the video, subscribe and share it with your friends. You can find the link to all of my Gore reviews in the video description. Until next time.